I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is my modded adventure. Now, through our adventure, there has been one thing that, well, has been a little lacking, and that has been Powah. Well, today, I plan on changing that. We should be able to upgrade further our whole power grid and even power ourselves. But it is going to require a little bit of automation in order to take place. And that is where refined storage is going to play a powerful role. Now, I have an idea and I want to cut straight to the chase of automating the energizing orb from the Powah mod. Now, this isn't ultimately going to give us any power. It's actually going to consume power, but we should be able to make a reactor once we have the majority of the components automated for Powah. And this is going to make the upgrade process through this mod incredibly straightforward, because right now we're using very, very basic machines, not even making it past the real second tier. I guess you could say it's the third tier, but it goes way higher than what we currently have. So how am I going to go about automating all of this stuff? Well, it's kind of simple, but it does take a little bit of knowledge to understand how the crafter from refined storage works in the first place. So if we take a look at the crafter, we have several of them running, but they're doing just basic processing of crafting recipes. But if we take a look at this, it has a couple of modes over here on the left, which is super simple and straightforward. Ignore redstone signal, which is its default, or you can basically unlock the auto crafting when it receives a redstone signal. This has some interesting use cases, but this one is probably one of the most important. This one is a redstone signal locks auto crafting. So when it receives a signal, it will no longer send another auto craft if you have multiple going on. This is really important for what we're going to be working on. And then the pulse one is also very powerful, I think, as well, which will only insert the next set whenever it receives a redstone pulse. So that can be really useful for a timer or anything like that. But the way I want to use this, right, is I want to use this redstone signal locks auto crafting. And the best way that I can explain how this is going to work with the energizing orb, as I've automated this in several different videos, multiple different ways. This is one of the ways I've actually never showed. And the way we're going to do this is detect when something is inside the energizing orb. So as soon as something's inside the energizing orb, we're going to use a redstone comparator. If I grab any sort of material, we're going to use a redstone comparator to detect that redstone signal. So thankfully this outputs to the comparator, and then that redstone signal can be sent into any sort of block. And then all I have to do is, for example, on the crafter, which I can put up top here and simply rotate around till it's facing down. If we have this inside of this redstone signal locks auto crafting mode, then it should be as simple as soon as it does its first auto craft, it's going to put the items in. Then this is going to have a redstone signal, which will lock the craft. So not until the redstone signal goes away or until this is fully crafted and the items then go into the hopper and then into an importer, which is down here, which goes back into our system. Not until this is empty will it then try to send another set of items. Thankfully, it will not stop sending the sets of items. Once it receives a redstone signal, it'll still continue to finish the items that it was initially trying to send upon the first craft. So hopefully that's not too difficult to understand, but this is how we're going to automate it. So let's get the redstone setup, because this will also be quite simple. So for the redstone setup, I'm actually going to be using a cyclic redstone transmitter and a wireless redstone receiver. So the way that this works is we are going to need a cyclic GPS. And the GPS data card is a way of storing a location for the cyclic mod. So if this is going to send power out back here, we then need to take this and hook up the wireless transmitter, the redstone transmitter, to the source that's going to be sending the redstone. And then we need to continue that redstone signal to the block that we want to send to. And this is where we are going to take this GPS card. Now I can send this redstone signal pretty much anywhere. I could send it to the top or the side. Honestly, to make this look a little bit cleaner, we might just put it right here. So yes, it's going to be sending a redstone signal to this block, but it needs to know where to send the redstone signal. So I'm going to shift right click to select the block's location and store it in the GPS card. And then we'll put that in here. And now when this block receives a signal, so will this one. And it'll carry it through. And now the only other thing that we need to do is we need to get our cable from refined storage connected to our crafter. For this, I went ahead and ran the cables up because I think it's the only way to make this look relatively nice. And then I'm just going to cover this up. The only weird thing with refined storage, and I don't know exactly why this does it this way, but when there's a light source on the actual cable facades, it doesn't really like that there's a light source nearby, and it makes it glow in this weird way. Applied Energistics cable covers don't actually do this. So that's something, it's kind of an odd thing. Now, the hollow covers are another thing that I haven't really touched on, but hollow covers allow you to pass a cable. For example, this one right here, you can pass a cable through this cover. And it looks really nice when this is done appropriately like that. And there we go. So now we have pretty much exactly what we want happening. I could have, I guess, ran it through there, but yes, all we got to do is power this. And now with it powered, we basically need to just create the crafting patterns for all of the processes that are going to be involved with Powah. And that's basically it. And making these patterns are as easy as clicking here and then just simply going to the energizing orb and just creating a processing pattern for these. So let's go ahead and set this one up first, just so we can see this happening and how this is actually going to function. So I'm going to take some stone, fill this in, and put the crafter card in here. So making sure this is on redstone signal locks auto crafting, it should be ready to go. And if we open up our inventory, we can go into Powah, and I'm going to request, let's do 10 for right now. And I'm going to start this request, and we're going to see that to go in, the signal sends, and then it waits until the next process is ready. Look at that. And it is now automated. And this should work with any of the recipes, making this probably with the simplest way that you can automate with a single crafter from refined storage, integrating with Powah. Now, what if I told you we could clean this up a little bit and make it look even better because of a very specific mod that we have in the pack? And yes, I would be just as excited as you are. It's called the entangled block. And the entangled block is very powerful, allowing you to basically take the position of the block while leaving it intact and basically copying it to another location where its new location is the exact same as its current block, basically linking them together. So how does this work? So if I place down an entangled block here, and then I use the entangled binder, I can shift right click to select the block and then right click to entangle. Now this block is essentially this block as well. So what should happen is I can receive a redstone signal from it. So let's go ahead and, for example, put a redstone torch in here. You'll notice with the redstone torch, it now has an item in it, and it now detects that there's an item in it. Same as if it was directly behind it. So the weird part is, I don't know if this is a bug or not, but unfortunately I can't get it to send a redstone signal directly to the crafter, or that would be incredibly easy and make it too easy, right? So of course it doesn't work. But basically the way I was hoping to do it was to be able to send directly to the crafter. But as I tested, it apparently can't send redstone signals into any entangled block. And I don't know why, but we can still go back to the way we had it set up, where we have a receiver or a transmitter, and then I can just basically simplify this a little bit more so we don't have that little ugly redstone in the back, and I can just send the redstone signal there, just like we were doing before, which makes this really nice. So if you had create unlocked, by the way, and you had all of the brass, then I would recommend using, there's a wireless redstone from that. It would look a lot cleaner than this. But for example, right here, we put that in, and now it should be exactly the same way we had it. So if I go back into Powah and I request 10, we will see that will put the 2 in. It's now getting that redstone signal from this block, which now we don't have all of that ugliness that was back behind it. So from out here, it looks quite simple. Oh, and by the way, when you pick up the entangled block, it actually holds its state. So you don't have to worry about needing to rebind things if you want to move something around. So for example, me moving this to back here works just fine. With all of this new knowledge, we now should be able to set the auto crafts for all of these individual items. Now, there's some more things that I'm going to want to automate later on, such as the sort of powdered snow or the dry ice, not powdered snow, the dry ice that is in here. But this is going to require a few more steps, which we'll get into. But for right now, it is super nice that we can now, for example, craft upgraded variants of things. So let's say I need 64 of these. Well, let's go ahead and start those. And they're going to take a little bit of time in order to process. But now that I have this, I can set up auto crafts for just about anything inside of the Powah mod. Now, I've spent a little bit of time getting all of these things set up and auto crafted inside of a diamond crafter. It should go pretty smoothly from here, as I'm going to need to basically upgrade this power node, and then also upgrade my ender cell, and then just continue to upgrade my ender gates, and also upgrade my mag meter. All of those things should be relatively simple. So first things first, we probably want to focus on upgrading our power source, which is going to be our ender cell and our ender gates, because the gates for the ender cell are not going to be that great. I think the input for the hardened, is it 10K? Actually, that might be relatively fine for now. Yeah, we will need more of these energizers later on, but for right now, this should be pretty good, actually. We just need to upgrade our gates. So ender gates, I have all of them set up here. And so we should be able to craft these. Let's go ahead and craft a couple, right? It does look like I'm missing large capacitors. Like of course, I miss one thing that I need to craft. So that's the small. There we go. I forgot to craft the large variant. Nice. Okay. So with that done, we now should be able to easily go, hey, I want to make blazing rods. Let's actually just make one for right now. I'm just going to utilize some of the blazing rod that we have. And then we also need those gates. So, I mean, outside of all this should be pretty straightforward. It is going to have to craft those ender gates if it doesn't have them already. And there we go. So now we have these ender gates, and we also should have the rod, or at least we should have the rod. This is where having a crafting monitor is really nice. So we can take a look. Okay, so we should have it. Rod? Yeah, it's hidden right here. So let's just go ahead and replace what we have. So we have this, and these nodes need to be replaced, and possibly upgrading these. These probably also need to be completely replaced. Now this has an input output of 20,000, which is a lot. That is definitely a lot. Is this ender gate? I don't even know if we need an ender gate on this. Now that I look at it, I'm like, do we even need an ender gate here? I don't think so. Does this increase without an ender gate? It does not. Okay, so it does need an ender gate. And we're not going to see an input or increase just yet. That is another thing. Oh, we also need an energy cable. So yeah, this is where with Powah it does take a little bit to get started, because it's going to be like a constant going back and forth. But now we have the blazing, and we can hook this up to it. And now we have up to blazing. Right. Let's see. And that should automatically have detected that down below. We just need to upgrade our mag meters. So I need to set up autocrafts for those. So now that I have some blazings made, this should be a little bit nicer. We'll still maintain our power. Then we can go ahead and upgrade these to blazing versions. But this should be as simple as just applying this here. Ooh, we're actually going to need a pick, don't we? Or some sort of cable pipe thing. Anyways, let's go ahead and remove this, and we need to configure this to insert. There we go. So now we have lava going in there, and same on this side. We'll make sure this is set to insert. Perfect. And then we just need to put our gates on here. Nice. So now we have a little bit more power, and that means we can start to upgrade and make higher tier things. It's going to be, you know, one thing at a time, but this should be able to work. And I can extend this, by the way, out, and then we can make more rods. And the more rods we have, the more power we can use. So like, for example, if I add 3 more here, don't know how long these are going to take to craft. There we go. It's not very long at all, actually. So wow. So yeah, the more of these we have, the more power it's going to transfer, and the faster we can craft things like the niotic crystals, right? So we can upgrade and start making some of these, and we should see these are crafting relatively quick now. Yeah, no time at all to craft those. And so upgrading to the next tier and so on and so forth should be very, very quick. Now, I also want to get into powering ourselves, because this is something that we haven't really had access to until now. So I want to be able to power myself so I can keep this in my curio slot and not ever worry about powering my grid in my inventory again, or anything such as building gadgets. I want to be able to just wirelessly charge them. I can actually do that. So there is a player transmitter that we can craft, and I already have it set up on AutoCraft. But before we make our initial craft, I am going to need this thing, the player aerial pearl. And we can make one of these basic pearls, just like so. But what we need to do is we need to, I believe, right click a zombie with it. So down into the caves we go. Now, perfect. We have ourselves a zombie down in the caves, and it's now inside of the pearl. You can't like place it or pull it back out, but now that we have this, we have the ability to craft those things. So let's try and craft all the way up to Niotic. We should be able to do this now, and we can watch the craft take place. It happens super fast. Oh, this is why auto crafting is so great, and Powah would be incredibly tedious without the auto crafting. So this is really, really good. Now, player transmitter, we can put this just about anywhere. I think for right now, let's go ahead and actually put it on this wall right here. So we can tuck it away right here. And we just need to power it. And so I'm going to actually use a gate on it. And that's going to start to feed this with some power. And notice there's a card slot. And this is important because the card slot is how we're going to power ourselves. And I think you can power other people as well if you were playing with some friends, but you would probably need a secondary, you definitely need a secondary transmitter in order for this to work. So we're going to need to make ourselves a binding card. Now, by default, this binding card is going to work in this dimension, but to make it cross-dimensional, well, we need to right-click this on an Enderman. You know, I think you can also do it on a an Endermite. So if you spawn enough Ender Pearls, you might get yourself an Endermite. Why, this is always such a tedious task. All right, there we go. We're regenerating. Come on, Endermite. Well, I don't know why we'd never get an Endermite. Honestly, an Enderman might be our best option, just going to the end. So yeah, that didn't work, so I decided to go ahead and come to the end anyways. And there we go. So now we have a binding card that is linked to us, and then we can click in Enderman, and then it makes it a dimensional binding card. That is pretty powerful. So, and then just back at the base, we just need to plop this inside of here, and now it is linked to me, and everything that I put into my inventory, such as like a building gadget and so on and so forth, should immediately charge up and be ready to go. Now, this is good and all, but I still don't think I have enough power to truly support my storage system having cross-dimensional access. Just having infinite range alone is going to cost a lot of RF, and I think that whenever you use the cross-dimensional version, it's going to cost over 8,000 RF per tick to have that card inside of my refined storage system. So yeah, we're going to need some nice power. And how am I going to do that? Well, the Powah mod actually has some reactors, but they do require some upkeep. Now, I've officially ran into my first problem, and that is when I try to do a request, for example, making the reactors, I don't know why, but it tries to, the crafter, unlike the one from Applied Energistics, it tries in one go to send everything in here. And unfortunately, that's not going to work. And now leaves me with a big problem, where this can craft all of these individual components one by one, but whenever you set a recipe that requires multiple things to be crafted, then that's where the problem lies. And I wonder how to get over this problem, because this is a big one. Now, because of this problem, I've tried my best to come up with the best modded, elegant solution that I could come up with. I'm not a super powerful redstone creator, so I don't know all the tips and tricks, but what I essentially set out to do was to change the way this works. So basically, instead of doing it the way we were doing it, we can put this in pulse mode. And I noticed that pulse mode, actually on the first go, whenever you start the craft, it will send one of the items that it's trying to craft. Unlike the other modes, where it's going to try to send everything that's in here into it. I don't know why it does that, but I want to make this a single block operation. And so it needs to be in pulse mode. But this comes with its own problems, because if you detect the hopper, sometimes the hopper doesn't send out a comparator signal because the extractor will pull out too fast. So basically what I've done is I have it still detecting the orb, and I'm having it basically invert the signal to send a pulse. And we'll talk about the sequencer here in a minute. But what is going to happen is whenever the pulse leaves, whenever the item leaves out of here, it will basically initiate. Now, I ran into the problem trying to run Redstone directly into this, where it would essentially send 2 items on the first craft. And to prevent that, I have to make sure that this will only send a pulse and will not hold a redstone signal. So that is where the sequencer comes into play. So I have this set to once 2. And what this means is whenever it does receive a redstone signal, it is going to run through this sequence here, which is 1 tick. So I have it set on the 20th tick. I could probably make this a little bit shorter if I really wanted to. But whenever it receives a signal, it's going to run through all of these. These are each 1 tick, and then it's going to hit this, and it's going to send a pulse. That pulse is going to go into here, and then that is going to initiate the next craft. And then it has no other pulses, and once it gets to the end, it stops. And then it waits for another signal. But if it is interrupted in between this section here, it will still restart and go back to the beginning. So that is where this is helping, because otherwise, for some reason, this still sends 2 items. So let's put this to the test. Is this going to work? Let's go ahead and craft the thing that we've been trying to craft, which is a reactor. And you'll notice that it sends it in here, 1 item, and it stops the pulse. And then when an item goes back in, or when the item leaves, it then triggers it to get put in here. So hopefully this isn't too confusing. The redstone is a little bit different, but honestly, it's not a crazy difference. And let's go ahead and add some bricks. And the cool part about this is, well, we can just make it look like it doesn't really even exist, which is the remarkable part. Just like that. So now I knocked this down to 10 ticks, and it seems to be going a lot faster, by the way. Also, I needed to actually craft the correct amount of reactors. I thought that it being 4, I was going to need to craft sets of 4. No, I just need to craft the 36 that is required. And then we're going to get into the reactor, which is going to be kind of interesting. Now, while I'm waiting for all of that to craft, well, how about we look at this? The wandering table. Now, I'm going to need ice, and I'm going to need a lot of it. And this wandering table is actually kind of interesting in how it functions. So it's just like a wandering trader. However, it doesn't have to, you don't have to worry about it popping in, and it actually works with this mod. So we can go ahead and grab some emeralds, several of them actually. And this is going to be sort of a gamble, but we want to get this thing leveled up into the next mode. My goodness, you guys are loud. And we want to keep leveling this until we get it to the max level 5. And there's a chance that we can either get ice, or we can even get packed ice from this wandering trader. And then in that case, if it's packed ice, we can set up a auto trader and just feed it emeralds. And that would provide us with all the ice we could ever want, which would be amazing. But yes, it is going to take a little bit of time, and there's a little bit of chance because there are things that can roll in its pool. If we get super lucky here though, oh boy, that would be nice. Okay, so I think we have one more thing to go, and then we are at its max level. And okay, so we did not get lucky on this villager, but the cool part is we can just take this one out and, well, do it all over again with a new villager until we get the thing we want, which is going to be that ice. I am so glad I kept pushing because I ended up getting one that does produce blue ice. Oh, this is going to be great because blue ice is going to save us so much. All I need to do now is take this villager and take the trading station. Well, not necessarily a trading station, but the villager itself, because before I went ahead and had already gotten one that was normal packed ice. And so what I had done is I went ahead and put it in here, but I'm going to actually take this guy out and I'm going to place this guy in. And what I want to do is I want to trade for blue ice. Look at that. So we already purchased all of the blue ice from this guy, but inside of the auto trader with an exporter sending emeralds, this will produce all of the blue ice we'll need. Hopefully. I hope. This guy was a pain to get. Now's when the fun really shows. We have all of the components for the reactor, and all you have to do is click here, and it is going to craft the entire thing. Make sure you have a 4 tall area, a 3x3x4 or 3x4x3, and when it's done, we get ourselves a nice little reactor. And this interface can seem kind of daunting, but let's go ahead and get a bucket of water, and I can go ahead and show you that at least you don't have to worry about pumping water into this. You just need water. So you see right here, the water is perfectly fine in there. And then we can get our ice. Now I want to try and make the powdered snow. So we'll need at least 2 of these in here in order to make the powdered snow. I keep calling it powdered snow, but it's dry ice. The dry ice is going to go in here and it's going to cool things down. And then you're going to need the uraninite. Not the raw, but the actual processed version. Let's go ahead and get some processing up. And in this case, we should be able to set it up to auto craft. And once we have a bunch of this, it can go into here. But we're also going to need coal, some sort of coal. I think charcoal might work, but we have plenty of coal. So we can send it some blocks. And then we also need redstone. And we definitely want to use blocks for the redstone as well. And with that, we should be generating some power. Yes, it looks like a generation factor of 25,000, but it's only generating 14,000 RF per tick at the moment. And then we want to set this to auto mode on. The reactor will stop when it is full and only start when it has less than 70% energy, which will help conserve some of these resources. And basically with that, we have a reactor up and running that's producing a lot of power. So let's go ahead and get a gate, and we will hook the gate up to the node. And I think on the top, there should be a connector, or can we connect to the side? I thought we connect. Oh, we connect to this little spot right here. And there we go. So now we have power that should be leaving here, draining ever so slow, because this has a input, and this is probably exceeding that. It's draining just ever so slow here, but this is now basically already filled up with the 10 million. So this little reactor here, it does wonders. It does wonders at producing some power for us. And it seems like the solid coolant is going to last such a long time. Now this will produce more power the more uraninite that it has stored. And this went all the way up to 22,000 that it is generating FE per tick. So yeah, that is a lot better. And then the only real thing we need to hook up to this is just an exporter that's making sure that it's keeping these things in, and then put a crafting card on it. So with this, there's nothing like a satisfying end here. All we have to do is drag the redstone blocks into here, and then the coal blocks into here. And then we're going to need the dry ice that goes into this, and then the uraninite. So we take the uraninite and put that in here. And then finally, we need to put the crafting card in here. That is, if the inventory doesn't have a full set of these items, it's going to try and craft them if it has the items to craft. And so last but not least, we connect that together, and that should be ready to go. Should keep this in stock. And you see it is going to try and craft up all of the uraninite and the dry ice required. And it's ready to go. And now we have Powah. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed this powerful episode, and as we move forward, my goodness, we have some more adventuring to do, as I want to become the most powerful being in this overworld. Well, hopefully also in the other dimensions as well, but it's going to take some time, and well, we're going to be diving into those the next couple of episodes, and I can't wait to get into the Ratlantis dimension. Now that we have power and we have cross-dimensional power, it's going to be much easier. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also give this video a huge thumbs up. It's been a blast, and it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go to Fuse over on the Discord. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way. And guys, if you're interested in joining the Discord and becoming a premium member today, check it out, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. We have an amazing community of over 30,000 members and growing every single day. Oh man, so I'd love to have you over there. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I say it too much. And as always, Thanks for watching. Bye.